I think this attempt to deny the fact that the Prime Minister's mother is his relative and brother is his relative is very spurious. So if we're going to be here all night, I would ask the member to at least tell the truth when she speaks.
This is debate?
It is debate. Thank you very much, Mr. Angus. Go ahead, Madam Shanahan.
I will continue, and I would look forward to other members speaking about the definition, but it's clear to me that it is not intended to be a mother or a brother or a sister or any member outside the immediate family.
Ethics Committee MPs want access to speaking contracts for the Prime Minister's mother and brother dating back 12 years. Tory and NDP MPs want to create a special committee to investigate the WE controversy and other government pandemic response programs, like the wage subsidy, for example. Liberals have been filibustering to stop that from happening. Is it smart politics for the opposition to return focus to the WE controversy? Time for the Power Panel to weigh in on that. In Denham, Quebec, David Hurley, partner in the Gandalf Group and host, of course, of the Hurley Burley podcast. In Ottawa, former Director of Communications for Prime Minister Harper, now Managing Partner at Rubicon Strategy, Corey Tenaik. In Toronto, Andrew Thompson, Chief of Government Relations for University of Toronto and former Saskatchewan Finance Minister. And over in Montreal, Emily Nicolas is a columnist with Le Devoir. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Here we are back again with we. David, why don't I start with you? Because I know that barn burner of a clip really illustrated it, but this committee might be going all night. It's happened before. The opposition is very intent on making sure they get more information disclosed through a variety of means. The Liberals have really cemented their defense in the past few days, I think, both online and in person, in saying this isn't what Canadians care about. They're paying attention to the pandemic, and you should be too, Conservatives or NDP. How do you think this plays out?
Well, I think that you asked the question at the beginning, is this smart politics for the opposition to be returning to this issue? And I think unquestionably it is. But we should see it at this level of discourse for that. We should see it for politics. I've been asking, and I've heard nothing from the opposition that is a thesis about what they're looking for, a thesis about what went wrong. Long ago, it was that Trudeau directed the contract, but that's been well investigated and proven to be false. So now they're just fishing largely for embarrassing things that are unlikely to be important, but they could be embarrassing. So the Liberals know that they're on their weakest ground when they're talking about this issue, and they're trying to stop talking about it, even though there might be some pruriently interesting things yet to find out. The Conservatives, the NDP, know that they haven't laid a glove on this government on anything other than this issue since the pandemic started. And so they're anxious to return to this issue to score political points. And so this is an interesting battle for what information gets out. But I would certainly be doing exactly what the Liberals are doing if I was in their shoes, and I would likely be doing what the opposition is doing if I was in their shoes.
Andrew, do you think it's true that the opposition needs almost a thesis? Like, what is the thesis here? Or is kind of gleaning for bits of new information, which there very well could be some, enough?
My sense is this is a failed strategy for both the Liberal government and for the opposition parties, in particular the Conservatives, who are continuing to pursue this. The Liberals had a chance to put this all to bed if they had just allowed the committees to work through the summer rather than proroguing the House. But instead, they decided they want to fight about this, they want to delay it, and it's all come home to roost now in the fall. The problem for the Conservatives is that they are back again dealing with an issue only of scandal, and it's one that I think really Canadians have moved on from. It's priced into the Liberal brand. It knocked the Liberals far down in the polls off of their pandemic highs. It's brought them back to earth. And the problem now for the Conservatives is they are really missing out on the major part of the conversation that Canadians are having, which is what do we do next on the pandemic and what comes next on recovery. So both of those parties, I feel, are really sunk into this. I don't see a way for either one to really gain. For the NDP, the upside is that the committee really is the third ring of the circus. It's not where most of the action is that they're wanting to focus on, which is on pandemic relief, which is happening in the Commons itself.
Corey, what do you think about that? I mean, the NDP also at times has wanted to make sure this was part of the conversation. Charlie Angus in particular, who we showed a clip from, has been particularly vocal about his criticism of the government when it comes to ethics. But to Andrew's point, has the Liberal brand suffered already because of this, and the most it will?
Well, I guess if new information comes out as a part of this discovery process that the opposition is embarking on, maybe there'll be more. Who knows? I guess you don't know until you get the documents. But look, I think the Liberal brand has suffered. As Andrew pointed out, they're down in the polls compared to where they were at the height of their popularity through the pandemic. I think it has damaged them. I think it's sensible for the opposition to continue to pursue it. And I think it speaks to the larger problem, and we chatted about this yesterday a bit. The core problem with the Liberal brand is that often its interests and the personal financial interests of participants in that government are indistinguishable from government itself. I think it is the most successful line of attack that the opposition has had on the Liberal Party. Sorry?
I don't know who was trying to get in there. It's hard with Skype. You finish your thought, and I think it's David, so I'll jump.
I just said it was unique to the Liberal Party. I just said that phenomenon was unique to the Liberal Party, I'm sure.
Well, I think there are stereotypical problems that Conservatives have, Conservative governments in the Conservative Party federally have had. But they tend not to have been, unless you go back to the Mulroney era, issues of corruption. I think that there are many other criticisms that could be fairly leveled at the Conservatives, but I think the Harper government ran a very clean government. And I think that the Conservative brand has generally done better on that. I think the Liberal Party has been more scandal prone when it comes to things like accepting free vacations and basically getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar in all the different iterations that can occur. So I think it's part of a common theme that Conservatives use to attack the Liberals federally, and this government has provided another opportunity for them to keep that narrative going.
I guess the question, if I sort of think about how all three of you laid it out, Emily, is if we take all of that to be true, that this is a vulnerability for the government, does it really depend on if new information comes out, whether that continues to punctuate, right? Like if that continues to make a difference, because though the Liberals certainly were impacted, and we saw that through polls initially, in most cases they've rebounded not completely to where they were prior to the week controversy, but close to it.
Well, the thing is, if the police stops you, for example, for a reason that's not necessarily good, they cannot use that interaction with you to then start searching and questioning, investigating about every aspect of your life until they find something to arrest you with, right? And so I think there's a little bit of that going on right now in terms of how the Conservatives specifically are like, well, there was something with the WE scandal, so now we're going to ask about the entire history of your mother. And so there's, there's a little bit of that. And I think what would
they want speaking contracts, right? So it's still related to the issue. It's just not as directly as other stuff.
Right, exactly. But if you're not saying what you're looking for by asking for all of that, it's the ethical line is very tricky. But I think what would be more helpful is looking at, and I think that's actually part of the NDP proposal for a committee. It's looking at basically all the spending that's been happening in this pandemic. There's been a lot of money spent very, very fast. And there is not a lot of oversight because of that speed and the way that the parliament worked in the spring in terms of how that money was spent. Was those programs even efficient? There's the ethical things of look at the, perhaps conflicts of interest and things like that. But there's also, did those programs actually work for the Canadian population? Can we evaluate those programs? And I think if you were to put it like that, put the committee work like that, then you both feel the need of looking into the WE scandal a little bit more if there is more to find out, but it also does not look like as if it's just, partisan infighting. And it's actually something that should be done, actually, regardless of the WE scandal, looking at all that program spending and trying to see whether or not it was actually done in the best interest of the Canadian public.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see at some point, maybe in the next 100 hours or 100 days, whether or not they come to an agreement on whether to create that newer special committee. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.